everyone, welcome to The Dish. So as you know, I'm getting ready to give birth, hopefully not within this show, but sometime soon. And I have so many questions about motherhood and concerns that are popping up in my mind as I get closer. And so I thought I'd bring on my newest friend, Ashley Willis. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
So she's been on with us before with her husband, Dave, who's a pastor out at Stevens Creek. And y'all have your blog, strongermarriages.org. We talked a lot about that on the last show, relationships. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going to bring Ashley back because you have quite a bit of experience with some kids, don't you? So you have 4 boys. Talk to us about that.
4 boys, yes. Cooper, Connor, Chandler, and Chatham.
Wow.
And I trip over their names all the time. I'm not sure why we did the whole C thing.
The C thing. I love it.
But we stuck with it.
Yeah.
And they range in age from 11 to 1. So.
Wow. And so all boys. So how are they doing?
Yes.
How's Dave? How's everything going?
He's doing great. They're doing great. Just busy as can be and excited about summertime.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And so for me, obviously you have a lot of experience, and so I thought, you know, you're going to have some great advice for me. Me being a first-time mom, there's so many things that pop into my mind. And one of the biggest things is, for you, you have 4. How do you create balance and keep your sanity, you know?
I actually had a friend ask me that the other day, and honestly, all I can say is, especially with multiple children, I just embrace the chaos. Like, I used to be more of a type A person, but the more children I have, and many moms will find this out, is you kind of have to not sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
And just go with it. Just accept that things are going to be a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And not to say that you don't, you know, have a schedule or an agenda for the day, but it's usually got to have some ability there. And so that's probably been the biggest thing I've learned. And that way, when I don't set expectations that are completely unrealistic, I'm a much happier mom, and I'm able to enjoy them more.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention is I think that I'm the same type of person. I have a lot of high expectations for myself, and I think even we talked about that in relationships in general. You know, having those expectations, you end up getting a little hurt more often because you expect this one thing, and this person's not doing it. And so same thing for children, and that's really good advice. And something I'll need to work on, that's for sure.
I'm a work in progress on it myself. So.
Wow. So anything that, you know, you would go back and do differently? I'm sure that you love your experience with all of them, but is there anything that now looking back as a, you know, 4-time mom, I guess you would say, looking back at your first time experience, what would you do differently? Is there anything that stood out to you that you think that I should avoid?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many things. And with this 4th, and I've heard a lot of other moms say this, I've so enjoyed him more. And I think it's because I have relaxed a little more. And, you know, when you're a first-time mom, you just have these certain things that you think you have to do a certain way. And you put a lot of pressure on yourself. And for me, I experienced that. And so there were a lot of moments where I feel like I could have enjoyed more.
Okay.
And because I was so concerned with doing it right, like how I had it in my mind. And so I would encourage you just enjoy it more and relax. You know, people say sleep when they sleep. I would say try to do that all that you can. Because I did not do that, and it kind of took a toll on me. Because, you know, you're trying to get everything done when they're sleeping, but really as a new mom, you got to sleep when they sleep, because you're just so exhausted. And when you don't have sleep, you're not at your best, and then the baby feels that. They feel that mommy's upset.
There's some tension there.
Right.
Yeah, and then for relationship too, I mean, we've talked about that. How do you find that balance there?
That is a very hard one. I would say, and I remember this distinctly, I had so many people say, you know, you had this regular date night. Dave and I are sticklers about a regular date night, and we have been since we've been married. And after we had the baby, we kept that up. My in-laws came over literally 2 weeks after we had Cooper. And I know this sounds crazy to some, but my mother-in-law came over and said, you got to keep up this date night. You guys need time together.
Which is great that it came from her too.
It did, yes. They have been wonderful. Both of our parents have been great encouragers of that. But I will say that I really had a hard time. We went to Applebee's, and I distinctly remember losing it.
Looking at your phone the whole time, right?
Yes, and it was kind of a mixture of emotions, because I was sad that I was sad in one hand that we were away from the baby, but then there was this other part of me that mourned the loss of Dave and I.
Wow.
And you may experience that too, but I would say that you can
have both.
Embrace the new norm, right? Find the balance by spending that time together.
Wow. And so, and there's a lot of other things I think that come with, being a first-time mom or just being a mom in general, and especially while you're pregnant and even post-pregnancy. And in a little bit, you and I are going to go a little bit deeper and get a little personal. We're going to talk about some postpartum depression, and that's something that I really wanted to bring awareness to, because a lot of moms, I think, deal with it and maybe shy away from talking about it because they feel like they're the only ones.
Right.
So you're going to be sharing some of that with us when we come back. So please do not go anywhere. Thank you so much, first of all, for being here and all the advice. I appreciate it. But you don't go anywhere, because we're going to go a little bit deeper with Ashley in just a bit to talk more about motherhood. We'll be right back. Hi there. Welcome back to The Dish, and thank you so much for sticking with us. So on set with me right now is Ashley Willis. You may recognize her. She was on a previous show with me and her husband and my husband. We did a relationship show. Your husband's a pastor out at Stevens Creek, and both of you guys have a blog called strongermarriages.org, so we really focused on relationships then. Now we're focusing on mommyhood, as I'm about to bring in a little one of my own. And so I have so many questions, so many concerns, and we just talked about some advice and what to expect. But one of the things that I really want to focus on, and that you're allowing us to go a little bit deeper with, is postpartum and postpartum depression.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people, that is a personal subject. I feel like a lot of people, or a lot of women, may go through it and aren't willing to openly share about it. So I want to talk about that and how it affects women.
I think it's a huge problem. I don't know the statistic, but I would tell you just from my own experience and talking with other women, it happens to various degrees more than we realize. And I think the reason women don't talk about it is because you have this baby, you've been waiting all this time to see your baby, and you're so happy that you have this baby. But then when you face postpartum depression, it's like this dark cloud comes in. And so you feel guilty because you think, well, why am I not happy? I just gave birth, and there's this precious little baby that I love so much and is dependent on me, and I love this child, but I just don't have this happiness kind of around this child. And sometimes people will kind of have a little honeymoon phase right after the baby, and then it happens. And so then they're really like, what's going on with my mind? And it's very common, and I experienced it actually with several of my children. It was my worst experience was with my firstborn, and it was a pretty heavy postpartum depression experience. And it basically, it was just what you think of. You're just not feeling this happiness around your baby, and you feel like you want to disconnect rather than connect. And things that you generally would find to be something you'd want to do, you stop wanting to do those things. It's like a regular depression experience, and so that's what happened to me.
And I'm sure that's very difficult, especially like you said, because you're bringing in such a beautiful miracle and a blessing, and that's hard to have those feelings towards your child. And the reason why I want to talk about it too is, I don't know what my experience is going to be like afterwards, and I pray, to God every day that, it'll be great, but you just never know. The hormones in your body control a lot of your emotion. And so what would you say to a woman who maybe is going through something like that? How do you recognize it, and what can you do?
Right. I would say if you don't want to really get out of bed much in the morning, and it may not be the type of thing like you see on the commercials where you literally cannot get out of bed, but if you're just resistant, where you don't feel like you have a lot to look forward to, that's definitely a red flag. I would say if you find that you're very irritable, that you want to start up fights with your husband, that you don't find joy in doing little things with your child, that's a red flag. I also think if you feel pressure from things like breastfeeding, if it's not going your way and you're putting all this pressure on yourself, I would say stop doing that. And I did that to myself, and just do whatever needs to be done to take care of your baby. But those are some red flags, and I would definitely talk to your doctor and get the help that you need.
And it's okay to seek that professional help.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this. We really appreciate it. And don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back, because now we're going to get into, I asked a question on Facebook about what you should never say to a pregnant woman, and so we'll have a little fun with that and talk about some of those comments. But do not go anywhere. We'll be right back with Ashley Willis. Is right around the corner for me, so I've invited my friend Ashley Willis on set with me. You may recognize her. She's been with us before. Her and her husband have a blog called strongermarriages.org, which is fabulous, great advice. And so I wanted to bring you on. You have some experience with mommyhood. You have 4 boys, and we've been talking about advice, postpartum depression, but now I kind of want to move things into a lighter direction and talk about some funnies. I asked a question on Facebook the other day about what you should never tell a pregnant woman. Do you have any moments where somebody shared some things with you that they probably should have kept to themselves?
Absolutely. You have those moms that are like in the trenches, and I'm one of those moms, like where you've had a rough day as a mother, and you see this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed pregnant woman, and there's some moms that kind of want to bring them down, like to reality. But that is not the time to do it. They're so excited about their baby, and so they'll be like, "Would you just wait? You just wait. You have no idea what's coming. You're happy now." But when they, and I'm just thinking, why do we do things like that?
Instead of an encouraging note and message and comment. And I'm going to read you some of these, and you can tell me what you think. And that was actually one of them, like, "Oh, you wait." But so we have one from Alexa Van Hees. She says, mothers sharing, or fathers that are in the delivery room, sharing their bad experiences.
Yes.
Whew.
Yes, and that's scary,
rough.
especially when you're really close.
Well, and first time, I'm like, she had how many stitches?
It's
what?
Horrible.
You know, so terrible. Another one, Stephanie Bat says, "Oh, you're ready to pop. Wow, you're huge." Oh man,
that's just never good.
That's never good, right? And we have a lot of those. A lot of women responded, obviously. They had a lot to say because obviously comments have been made that they don't like. But the main ones were, "You're huge."
Yes.
"Are you having twins?" Which I've gotten asked before. The horror labor stories.
Yes.
And how do you feel about this one? "Can I touch your belly?"
I think it depends on who it is.
Okay.
I mean, if it's someone you know well, they may not even ask you. They may just go ahead and touch it.
Go ahead and touch it.
But honestly, it depends. And I don't know, you've probably had this a lot. Sometimes I would let them if I was in a certain mood, but there were times when it just was so awkward.
Yeah, you're like,
you'll have perfect strangers.
And I don't mind people touching my belly. I think the one thing I do is the belly button. Ooh,
yes.
I start to feel it more in my clothes, and I'm like, oh, I go all day. Like I now realize that I do have a belly button that's sticking out 3 inches. But any good, really quickly, any good advice for me as I go into motherhood?
Oh, I would just tell you, I think my biggest bit of advice is to just take it all in and embrace it, even on your worst moment when you're changing the nastiest diaper of your life. And you're nursing and it's just messiness all around you. Just think, I am going to miss this one day.
Yes.
And I have like older grandmas tell me that all the time, and they are right, because the older I get and the older my kids get, it's so true.
It's so true. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your advice. And you can find more of her advice at ashleywillis.org or strongermarriages.org. Thanks so much. We'll be right back with some breastfeeding tips and benefits and more on how you can baby-proof your home. We'll be right back.